Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1546 of our daily content grind. And welcome to what's going to be the final episode review for Earthspark, because today we are covering the entirety of the two-part movie that comprises Season 4 and finishes up the entire series. We spent a long time thinking we weren't going to get this, that after everything got canceled, that this was all just going to be completely shut down. But fortunately, we are getting a little bow to tie up the finale of the series. They get to find an ending to the story. Kinda. We'll get to all that. But we're going to be talking about it first. And today, we're going to start off with Hometown Heroes, which is about 44 minutes long. So, okay. So we got like basically a double-length episode out of this. And it starts with a lot of Robbie just being a hot dog and just like basically showing off with his powers, being very immature with his superhero powers, which is something that I really thought would be out of his system by now. Like, he had them in season 1. He perfected them by season 2. I think at some point between season 1 and season 2, there'd be this period of, okay, I'm actually getting used to this, and yeah, this is just a thing now. And like any kind of misbehavior over like basically being a superhero would have been out of the system by now, so it felt weird to go back to like an immature Robbie. But that said, the story is not about Robbie. It's about Robbie's two new bullies. Because two normal, underpowered humans should be able to bully around a superhero who has saved the world. So this is Hoagie and Olive. Yes, they were named after a deli order, if that gives you any indication of the writing that we are about to be presented with. So both of them have grievances with the Maltos. We have Hoagie, who has a legitimate grievance. When they put up the big energy dome to hold Terratronus in, they cut off a big section of Witwicky. Well, the businesses inside Witwicky kind of collapsed for how long that dome was up, because obviously, you know, no business, no money coming in. A lot of families are hurting from this, and his is one of them. Like his parents' shop had to shut down because no one could get to it with an energy dome in the way. So he's going about it the wrong way. But Olive has her own grievances, but they're misplaced. And I want to get this. They are stalking him. They are verbally harassing him, physically harassing him. They are essentially, like, the kids should be like Robbie's whole thing is like he's terrified of telling someone he's got this problem. And he doesn't want to be seen, but like, your best friend turns into a drone. Have best friend fly around and record this and send it to proper authorities. And I do not mean a school teacher or principal. I mean like legal authorities, because they are doing exceptionally criminal acts here. I don't like these two, but I'm not supposed to. They're bullies. And Olive is the worst one. Olive is actually the daughter of Croft, our secondary villain from season 1. She blames the Maltos, apparently Robbie specifically, for the disappearance of her mother. Is not aware that she's actually dead. We're going to wrap this up. I'm not going to spend too long on all of this. So suffice to say, by the end of the story, she finds out what went wrong. Schloeder, who she is in the care of right now, is going to make sure that this is handled properly. Told her was gone, but because he was vague, that's why she started believing that there was something else going on, and didn't believe the Autobots, didn't believe him. Believed this mysterious text message she was getting on her phone. Believed that, though. That's logic. But yeah, it ends the way these stories typically end. She apologizes for misblaming Robbie and basically torturing him. An apology can really do a long way to, get things past your stalking victim. The messages, however, were coming from Mandroid. Now, we were pretty sure he was dead. Like after his big grand coup, we were pretty sure he was dead. And I thought that was fine. Like, at no point was I wondering, I wonder what happened to Mandroid. I wonder if Mandroid's still around. No, like, he looked dead. Looked dead. No. Autobots had him in custody. And this was his play to actually get out and make one last play against the Autobots and all Cybertronians. And his plan is to go to Cybertron. And I don't know what he's planning to do there because he's not going to find a single ally on the planet. What are you going to do against an entire planet of Transformers? You're one guy. Like, dude, you make no sense here whatsoever. And that is essentially the plan. The plan is to go after Cybertron. It don't work for reasons we'll explain later. He's battle capable in this episode because he latches on to Starscream and basically puppets him. And you get little moments of Starscream like being able to break through and like cry for help, which for just a split second I thought meant we were going back to Starscream season 1, who was more, amicable. No. By the time Mandroid's taken care of, Starscream is just as foul-tempered as he was in season 2, hasn't learned a thing, has not gone back to season 1. It's Megatron that actually gets Mandroid off of Starscream, so there's a second where I thought maybe this will help make amends. Maybe we can have like a sit-down talk between the two and like hash something out and like have actual character growth, pick up on that little nugget from season 1. No. Lock up Starscream again. The two still hate each other. And then that's it for Starscream. It's my one big hope for this entire two-parter. Just give me a little nugget to show that the best writing choice you made in season 1 was going to pay off. Nope. Can't have that. Can't have that. So, here's the thing. The entirety of the first 44 minutes of this full-length movie, the whole point of this entire storyline was just to get the space bridge up and running again, because they wanted the finale to take place on Cybertron. So literally, you had a 30-minute story, which felt like a 22-minute story, extended to a 30-minute story, just to get the space bridge back up and running, which gets back up and running because Mandroid had a vial of magic goo. And the magic goo somehow reformed and activated the space bridge. I have no idea how. But that's it. It's like it's 20 minutes. It's a 22-minute episode, stretch out to 30, and then the last 14 minutes just padding. It's just people talking about going to Cybertron. It's just words and noise. And it's weird. It's a lot. Like, you could have been in and out. You could have been in and out. But yeah. Now, the idea of setting it on Cybertron for the finale, okay, that's actually kind of cool. We actually get to see Cybertron in this universe. We get confirmation Cybertron still exists. That is the cool part here. And I do like that aspect. So at least, like Earthspark finishing on Cybertron, there's a little bit of something there. It's a new environment, and it helps us wrap up the whole entirety of this universe a little bit. Also, I will admit, on the opposite side of the space bridge is the traditional space bridge, the big circle that opens up on one side. I like that they put in little tech things like that to kind of like throw back to previous series. Now, that is a very familiar robot that you see in the middle there. So let's go over the new bots that are in this before we get into like the major stories. So like I said, what I just described to you is almost like, it's like 80-90% of what happens in Hometown Heroes. It really is a very thin nothing story. It feels very small, and I'm not sure what Mandroid's plan was, but that's all there really is to talk about. There's other things that are going on. There's stuff with Robbie, there's stuff with Twitch, but none of that gets any payoff until part 2, so it's better saved until then. For now, let us discuss the big thing that happened in the part 1, which is Hot Rod. So as soon as the space bridge opens up, Hot Rod walks through, apparently looking for help for Cybertron, and comes to the Malto's aid. Him and Mo start getting along real well, fighting off Mandroid bots together. So there's a little bit of camaraderie there, which will come into play at a later date. But his role here is the traitor. His role here is the traitor. Because as soon as like a lot of the Autobots are through the portal and it's just Robbie, Mo, and him, he steals the cyber sleeves. In fact, taking Mo's also inadvertently took Robbie's, and the two recombine into the Ember Stone. Now, the Ember Stone was a completely separate thing from the sleeves before, but apparently now we can just make another Ember Stone out of the two sleeves. So we could just do this infinitely, where I can make this Ember Stone, create 2 more sleeves, break the Ember Stone, take the 2 sleeves, mash them together, new stone. Can I just do this forever? Because this doesn't seem physically possible. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's storyline just to get the sleeves off of the kids and reform the Ember Stone so it can be in play for the plot. Which does mean that another interesting plot development from the previous seasons, that is, like, how do we get by now that the Ember Stone is destroyed, that also goes completely out the window. They don't do anything with that either. But Hot Rod's role is as the traitor. He's trying to get some kind of help for Cybertron, but right now that help is coming from Leege Maximo, so he is currently in service to him. It's not all what it seems. There is still a trace of loyalty to the Autobots in there, Mirage in particular. We'll see Mirage here in a second. But for the most part, Hot Rod is not a good guy at first and takes him a while to come around. Also, super deep voice that's super out of character. Like, it's one of the few voices, like, the voice changes on everyone else have been okay. I got used to them very quickly. His is the one where, like, every time he speaks, I go, that's very out of place. He's supposed to be the young upstart with, like, hints of leadership skills. He comes across as if he's been inhaling his own exhaust fumes. I'm not a fan of how Hot Rod is depicted. It feels very similar to IDW Star Saber, where they wanted a shock moment when you find out, like, when you see him, like, do the traitor stuff. And they needed a big name for that. Like, it just feels wrong. It feels wrong. I would have preferred a lot of other characters take that spot. The design's cool, though. The vehicle mode's real cool. We'll never get toys of them, but they look cool. Speaking of looking cool, we got a new Scorponok, and he looks really cool in both of his modes. This guy does not get to do a whole lot. He's just basically a big bruiser enforcer type, and he's written to be on the dumb side. And I really miss Scorponok depictions where he is like a secondary leader, where he is a leader himself, not just like a big grunt to be barked around and like very limited like Dinobot level vocabulary. Like, I miss classic Scorponok. Like, I miss the leader Scorponok. It's a cool looking design though, and it serves the purpose. It gives the Decepticons some big muscle. More interesting is Mirage. Mirage is another really cool design. Very sleek down, very rounded. I think it takes a little bit of elements from his Rise of the Beast design in just how smooth it ends up being. And again, super cool vehicle mode that will never get a toy. Love when that happens. But Mirage's place is basically as the one Autobot renegade they happen to run into who can still operate. And he can still operate because Hot Rod is letting him into Leege Maximo's Energon reserves, so he can keep fueled. And that's an important aspect of this. Leege Maximo's Energon source is valuable because not only is Cybertron like completely stricken like it usually is, in this case, Cybertronians seem to be losing their Energon very rapidly, like it's getting drained out of them just being on the planet, which is how Leege Maximo keeps everyone subservient. But it does create a problem for our Autobots. An advantage for our Terrans, though, who are not affected by this. Mirage is the only active Autobot that we see throughout the course of this that isn't part of Team Prime. And to be fair, it's a cool depiction. We've once again given him Hound's powers instead of Mirage's, but he uses it in a funny way. He's constantly creating clones to start talking for him. He talks to himself like he's losing his mind. And you can never tell which one is the real him. So I understand thematically to his name, that makes more sense. But, it's not what he does. You wanted Hound for this. Not... Okay, never mind. I think I have to resign myself to the fact that Mirage is just going to be the illusionist of Transformers from now on, and Hound is going to be the we forget Hound exists of Transformers. Moving on, Octopunch made his debut. Funny little gimmick to him, where so they didn't have to pay another voice actor. They just kind of had him making gurgling noises. But it's a fun design. I like the haunting face through the lens of the diving helmet. Though that said, they really don't do anything with him. He's really just at least with Scorponok, he's the heavy. He's the big bruiser when you need muscle to kick something around. Octopunch is just kind of there in the crowd, just to give you one more Decepticon on the field. I feel like there's Decepticons in this group that weren't very well used. Soundwave barely did anything. Hardtop barely did anything. I feel like any scene where Octopunch is in control, you easily could have swapped in one or the other for the sake of the fight scene. And frankly, I have a much better idea where the budget for his model could have gone. I will get to that in a bit. Let's move on to the final new design, which is Leege Maximo. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to take this design seriously. I'm just not. He looks like Ultron with deer antlers. He looks like Ultron with railroad crossing arms coming down over his head. I can't get past the big stupid ears and the Ultron head that he has. He looks like, okay, here's what he looks like. Okay, Mega Man fans, he looks like Sigma at the end of X8. And that's not a great look, Sigma. It's not right. It's not right. Villain-wise, he serves fine, but, it's just, the design is not my preference. Not my preference to the design, honestly. He's Leege Maximo. He's one of the 13. So, when I compare him to, Quintus, there's an enormous disconnect when it comes to, design philosophy and look here. So I wish that was narrowed a little bit. I wish he had more of that aspect to him. Leege has a lot of things going on here. So for starters, the planet is overrun by the Sparkless, so our zombies. They never really explain, none of them ever look like any other Transformers, and no one seems to have any qualms over just eliminating the corpses of their fallen brethren. So, that's a thing, but those are all over the place. They attack multiple times during the course of this episode. The 66-minute episode, by the way. And Ultron Sigma here is after all of the Prime artifacts. That's his whole thing. He wants to gather, he's defeated all of the other Primes and stolen their artifacts, save for the Matrix of Leadership that Optimus Prime holds and the Ember Stone that made its way to Earth. Interestingly enough, he actually refers to Optimus Prime as one of his own. He acknowledges Optimus as the 13th Prime, even though that's supposed to be something that's usually hidden away and something that even Prime is not aware of and does not acknowledge. And no one even brings it up as a thing. They just kind of move on. They hear it out of his lips and then they just kind of move on with their day. But the idea here is that he's going to use the Enigma of Combination to bring all of these relics together to empower Cybertron into what essentially looked like a techno-virus that could spread across the universe, because he is all about like conquering the universe through the might of Cybertronians. It's typical villain stuff. It looks real cool when Cybertron's like vining out and like trying to reach out for like neighboring worlds. That's kind of a wicked look. It's kind of weird, but it's kind of cool. So yeah, typical villain, typical motivations. Also, he is eventually going to get defeated when Robbie and Mo slice his ears off. Because at some point in the battle, someone noticed, like, there's his ears. There's something about his ears. You're meaning to tell me he's battled the other 11 primes, including the likes of Megatronus? And nobody ever just shot him in the ear. Because when his ears get cut off, this little like singularity in his chest where he stores all the prime artifacts, which is actually really a cool little touch where he's just like reaching into his chest and like pulling out the Requiem blaster that's like half the size of him. That's kind of cool. It kind of looks cool. So there's that. But when the horns get cut off, he kind of gets absorbed into it. Like the horns were the whole reason he was able to control said black hole time-space dimension in chest thing. You're mean to tell me 11 primes never figured that out in combat? Whatever. We'll leave it to 2 Earth kids who don't even have their powers anymore. So I'm not huge on Leege. He served his purpose, but I don't get Leege Maximo out of him outside of just being like the manipulator, because he had the Decepticons and Hot Rod very well manipulated in order to meet his goals. Let's move on here. So aside from just save Cybertron, there's another B-plot going on, and that is between Twitch and Thrash. And I do think it's appropriate that we end this series with Twitch and Thrash telling a story, since that's how we began the series. They are kind of feuding. Twitch is overwhelmed right now. She is feeling inadequate because she was not there during the Quintesson battle. She went down before it began. So she feels like she let her team down, and she's been very pushy. She's putting a lot on her own shoulders. And at first, Thrash just kind of wants to help out and carry some of that load for her. But it turns into a competition between the two, where Thrash's attempts to just take some weight off her shoulders is starting to amount to trying to take over the role of leadership amongst the Terrans. And after he gets like compliments from Optimus Prime that inflate his ego, he's very, very ego driven for the rest of this special. And it feels very awkward. Like, I'm not a fan of how Thrash was in this one. Because it was obviously, because something that he kept pointing out is that Twitch overthinks things, but leaders do think about things a lot before they make actions. Thrash does not. Thrash is making like spur of the moment choices in the special that usually screw everything up and put them in more danger. Like his little radio call trying to find somebody, and all it did was signal the zombies. Oh great, you've alerted the Horde. Good job. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of how Thrash was depicted. Like, his heart's in the right place, but he went way too far with it, and the ego is just over the top. No, the more interesting story to me is Twitch, and I think that's appropriate that Twitch has a really good story arc for this, because Twitch has kind of low-key been, like, the main story that kind of ties the entirety of Earthspark together. The slow maturation of her as a character, coming into a leadership role amongst the Terrans. But nothing has truly cemented that until we get into these episodes, where she's trying to prove herself again. She's trying to gain confidence in herself again, is the real thing going on here. And we actually do get involvement directly from Quintus. This is kind of a big deal. Like, it's a demigod that is choosing to have an audience with you to give you a pep talk. Okay, that's a big deal. Like, as far as I know, it's only Robbie and Mo that have directly contacted Quintus at this point. So the fact that Twitch has now done it, kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. So, during the fight scene, during the scene where, like, Leege Maximo is attacking the Autobots, There's a few scenes where he attacks the Autobots and they escape and they get found again, they get attacked again. But during one of those scenes, Leege gets Optimus to relinquish the Matrix, except he doesn't have it. So this is after the pep talk, after Twitch has regained who she is. Her idea was to run off with the Matrix of Leadership so that Leege could not obtain it. And the great thing about this is, yes, I love the little subtle acknowledgement that this scene has of like, yeah, like here she is with the Matrix of Leadership. For me, that's a big fan of the character and a big fan of seeing her become a leader amongst the Transformers. This is kind of cool to see her with the Matrix. What's cooler for me is that the Matrix is actually responding to her. The Matrix is not only empowering her like you see here, it is also guiding her. It communicates to her and like guides her down into Cybertron where she is needed to rescue something else we're about to talk about. It technically makes her a Matrix bearer. It technically makes her a Matrix bearer. And the great thing about that is that we show that the Matrix doesn't work for just anybody, because Leege Maximo gets his hands on it mostly as a diversionary tactic, because he's constantly, they make a point of Leege constantly not understanding what the Matrix of Leadership does. He thinks it makes people bow to your will, hence why everyone follows after Optimus Prime, even Megatron. No, not at all. The whole point, the Matrix, we know what the Matrix of Leadership is. It's just Optimus Prime is that inspiring of a leader. That's why he's followed, not because of the bauble in his chest. So because he never understands that, the Matrix doesn't work for him. The Matrix does nothing for him just because he's possessing it. Twitch, on the other hand, does. That says something. The Matrix is actually acknowledging her. That says something. She's a Matrix bearer. This is where I think the animation budget for a new model should have been in. As long as there's no repercussions, as long as there's no worry about a toy, as long as you can just do whatever for this finale, why not just evolve her? Do the Rodimus Prime thing. Just give her an evolved form where she's now like normal Transformer height, where she actually has a stronger build, where she has a vehicle mode more akin to Megatron's VTOL, because that was the whole thing. It's the whole reason why she is why Megatron is her mentor. They look like teacher and student. Their alt modes are so similar to each other. They look like teacher and student flying together. So to evolve into something more akin to his alt mode, I thought would have been a great little thematic touch. You know, and a final acknowledgement of, yes, Twitch is the leader here. Twitch has earned this. But I will take what I can get. As a Twitch fan, I will take what I can get. To be fair, the rest of the Terrans don't really get to do a whole lot. They have little moments of their own style, but nothing like groundbreaking, nothing huge to the story. They don't get to do any like character growth or evolution of any kind. Outside of, after all is said and done, Jawbreaker kind of wants to explore Cybertron on his own. So, okay, he's stepping away from the nest. Okay, we can respect that. Don't know how you're going to get any cave water on Cybertron, but you know, good luck to you. Which is, by the way, at one point in this scene, they make a point of like mentioning that Cybertron doesn't look anything like the history books. And Nightshade's quote is, makes you wonder who wrote those. Don't do that to me. I have been telling you for a while now, I will forgive every writing misstep of season 2 and 3 if you just put in this little part to confirm that the reason we never see Thundercracker in this series is because he's the one that's been writing the comic books and the history books. Because for us IDW fans of Thundercracker, that makes all the sense in the world. Please? No, they didn't do that. They didn't do it. No mention of Thundercracker. Why you gonna put a throwaway line like that in there and just like tease me with it? Like I thought I was gonna get some like big revelation, or I'd go back to like the history book Robbie had in the previous episode and just go like, can I translate something on the face of this to translate into Thundercracker? No, I can't. Right? Just teasing me at this point. So I mentioned the Matrix was pulling Twitch towards someone who needed help, who was hurt. It was the Allspark. So I'm glad that we're kind of wrapping up the Allspark storyline here too, but at the same time, this is kind of rushed in, isn't it? It's kind of like, so it's just here. Optimus supposedly space bridged it out into wherever, and it just ended up here. So this would have been, what would have made this great is if at some point, Megatron would point out and just like say to Optimus, you mean to tell me you faked teleport, you faked space bridging the Allspark away just to put it right back into Cybertron? Very clever. You'd have made an excellent Decepticon. Something to that nature, just to like imply that Prime's whole idea was to pretend like he shot it off into space when really he was just putting it back where it went. Otherwise, it just kind of seems like, why is it there? And they never really answer that. But we do know why Cybertron is leeching life from everybody. One of Leege Maximo's darts has been stuck into the Matrix, which basically flipped it from blow to suck. They never really use Leege Maximo's darts. Like every time you look at the list of like all the Prime artifacts, the darts always seem like the lamest thing. So I'm actually happy they used them in an effective manner. I'm glad they actually had a purpose here. So because of those darts, we actually get Robbie's hero moment of the episode where he kind of comes to grips. So the whole thing, the whole progress of Robbie was, I'm really cool because I have my superpowers. Look at me showing off with them, to losing them going like, I'm nothing without my superpowers. Until we get to this moment where he realizes he can contribute and he can do something when he's just him. And while that's character growth, like I don't know, I don't know, like I don't like it being, I don't like him losing his powers completely and just being okay. I'm fine with that. We'll get to that in a minute. But it is true, like the way they've set up the plot, if he had used his, if he had his cyber sleeve when he tried to pull that dart, he would have gotten shocked and probably killed because it, because it really hurt Twitch to attempt pulling that dart. I don't know. I mean, it is a story growth for Robbie. Like he learns that, he learns self-worth is what he learns. And to that point, when he gets to the end and the Ember Stone is offered back to Robbie and Mo, they both say no. They're going to continue palling around with the Autobots, and the ending leaves you in a situation where you kind of go like, hey, it'd be really cool to have really powerful cyber suits right now. But no, they say no. They just kind of reject the fact that they are Quintus's chosen and just kind of leave the rock to Hot Rod. And, okay, with Robbie, okay, he had like an entire movie to have this character arc of like discovering who he is and realizing he is something without the stone. But for Mo's whole thing when she lost her powers was, I can't feel my family anymore. I can't feel the Terrans. I can't feel Robbie. And that was the feeling she got used to, and she didn't want to lose that. And aside from like a throwaway line about like accepting an apology from Robbie for how he's been acting and knowing he means it without the sleeve, that's it. That's it. That's the only development she has, and then she just goes, yeah, I'm okay losing my powers forever too. Like, you didn't explain that. You didn't go through the story of that. I don't know. It felt weak, and I don't like storylines where like my heroes have their powers ripped away and like, yeah, we're just kind of okay with that. It's whatever. We're over 30 minutes into this, and I haven't even gotten to the part that ruins everything. I have been like full middle ground on this. The full movie has its moments. You know, there's things I actually like. I like the depiction of Mirage. I really like the story that Twitch gets to tell, and seeing her come into her own, like, as a Twitch fan, makes me happy. And then they pull, you know, then there's the downside, We've been over that. Wasted potential, you know, etc. And then this thing comes up. So this is the Blades of Time, because apparently having Vector Prime's sword was not good enough. No, they wanted Xena's chakram to be spinning around, bouncing around like Captain America's shield, just being a threat on the field that can just be bouncing from anywhere. The Blades of Time reverts somebody that's impacted by it to a previous point in their existence. And they demonstrate this by bringing back the Cybertron Bumblebee design when he first landed on Earth and was still a younger warrior. They brought this design back. And this is just an example that they did, just to show what the Blade could do, but it also kind of screams of, we paid for this model, we're going to use it for more than one episode. But it also reverts him mentally. So like Breakdown, that he's kind of reconnected with during the course of this story, he starts turning on Breakdown again, because now he doesn't remember their history together on Earth. And this is where I knew this was going to get really frustrating. The whole purpose of showing this is to build up tension for that Blade hitting Megatron and bringing back the villain. Bringing back the full Decepticon Megatron. And it does create some tense moments, but you don't actually think they're going to pull the trigger, because why would you do that? Why would you take one of the most beloved characters from this series and like a really interesting depiction of Megatron, the only good guy Megatron we've ever had in animated form? Why would you possibly turn him back into a villain and then he gets hit by the Blade? And then he gets shot through the chest. So they throw the Blade through him, and then they shoot him to kill him. And it should be like, I would have been okay with Megatron making like a self-sacrifice thing to either save Optimus or save Dorothy or like one of his human friends or something. I would be okay with that. Or like save Twitch. There was a line where like Megatron came to Twitch's aid, and Megatron said, "I know one day you'll come to my aid." And I thought they'd pay that off during the fight. No, they hinted it's going to be paid off later. We'll get to that in a minute. So they kill off Megatron, but they have a full Allspark. So they rebuild Megatron. Doesn't seem to work. Hold a funeral for him. And then at the very end, he comes back to life. But the Blade hit him first. He's back to being a bad guy. And then he just wanders back to the space bridge and leaves. Why would you make such an asinine decision? Why would you're supposed to wrap this story up. You're supposed to wrap up Earthspark in this nice little happy, satisfying bundle where we're kind of like glad we watched this whole thing. Why would you possibly completely wreck a character like that? Like, I really don't like it with B, because it undoes all of his development, his, like, familial bond that he formed with the Maltos. It completely ruins all of that, because he's just back to being square one Bumblebee. And I really hate Megatron just forgetting literally everything on Earth. Literally. Because it feels like a setup for another season. Like Megatron's back as the villain, and he's gone back to Earth to cause chaos. I don't know how he's going to cause chaos, because there's no Decepticons on Earth. All of the ones that were under Leege Maximo's control just kind of wandered off. After the betrayal was revealed, just kind of shot him a couple times and then left. Because the battle would have been over way too soon if every Decepticon and every Terran were ganging up on him at the same time. That's the only reason why they left. But, like, who's left on Earth? So, Starscream, who's trapped in a holding cell that this version of Megatron does not know the location of. Maybe a couple of the Sharkticons that are still floating around, but we hadn't heard hide nor hair of them since season 1. They're probably locked up too in said underground bunker Megatron doesn't know about. Or maybe Tarantulas, who no one can find, because that's his whole thing. What's he gonna do? Like, he's gonna get to Earth, realize there's still Autobots there that are very well equipped against him. Oh, and by the way, Terratronus is there. He's cooked. Like, as soon as he gets back, he's cooked. It comes across like they're doing like a loose thread for a season 5 that we know is not happening. And it'd be so much farther back to status quo. No one watching this show wanted to see Megatron go evil again. Nobody. It leaves such a bad stench to the ending of this series. It's frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating. Like, why would you have, like, all this potential for this nice feel-good moment and then just throw it out the window? I don't know. I'm not a fan of leaving it like that. And it's not the only thing wrong with it. Like, there's a lot that went wrong in this finale. Like, a lot of missing faces. Like, I never got a payoff on Tarantulas. You come up with one of the most fascinating takes on the character. You give him a really cool design. He's in one episode, and then you do absolutely nothing with him for 3 more seasons, technically. Very upsetting. Very disappointing. But on top of that, you start to realize the Chaos Terrans weren't there, even though they seem to have made friendly with the Terrans after season 3. Like, it seemed to be on the same page now. Would have loved to have seen that. We didn't see RC, no Grimlock, no Cosmos, because having a flying saucer on Cybertron would have helped out a lot when we were trying to get back and forth to each other. No, you realize that's because they're not gonna throw that money at the finale. You're gonna throw the money to get Weird Al and Keith David and Flea to put in a few more lines just so we could show off the characters that are missing from the finale. You know, if you like the Chaos Terrans, you're screwed here. Like, you didn't get any resolution on them. And also points out, like, how quiet the Decepticons were, which was just weird. Like, there's some Decepticons that are naturally quiet. You know, the Insecticons, Skullcruncher, yeah, okay, I don't expect anything from them. But Soundwave was quiet, Hardtop was quiet, Skywarp was quiet. Skywarp and Nova Storm. When are those two ever quiet? Frenzy was quiet. Why was Frenzy quiet? Because they're not wanting to pay the actors. That's it. Because they cheaped out on the acting cast. So it starts making the show feel a lot hollow. Like, you just kind of stare at, you know, like when you start to notice, like, wow, none of these characters are speaking. Man, that's actually really disappointing. It starts making the show feel empty, even though there's a lot of characters there. And that is it's a really bad tone to put to the finale. You know, it's good to see a big cast of characters, but most of them are just set pieces at that point. And in general, that's the finale. That is the finale. They end off on one of those, like, the adventure continues kind of things. And I hate adventure continues when it's done in a way like this, you know? Like, there's that one of, like, we're sticking together, we're going to continue our adventure, and whatever happens next, happens next. But when they establish and set up what's going to happen next, and then go, well, the adventure continues, it just comes across like, here's story you're never going to see. You're never going to see them trying to get Megatron back to who he was, because if he was turned once, he can be turned again. Obviously, you know, this might not be immutable. There might be a way of restoring Bumblebee and Megatron to who they were before. This is where that line from Megatron, you'll be there for me when I need you. That is where it's supposed to play off, supposedly, in whenever these two run across each other again and Twitch tries to get the old Megatron back. But that's all left to interpretation and imagination, you know? The best part about this finale is the fact that Breakdown seemed to finally just join the Autobots and just kind of, you know, give up on the Decepticon thing. But that's pretty much it for Earthspark. A lot of plot, there's a lot of things that are unresolved. I'm not satisfied with the resolution for a lot of the other things. I wish they explained where the Allspark went. I wish Leege was felt more like Leege Maximo. I loved the Twitch stuff. Was not a fan of the first half of this. I don't know. Like, the first, 12 minutes of this are a really hard watch because I hate seeing my characters torn down. I hate seeing the heroes not treated like heroes. I get really frustrated at things like that, and they have to milk it a lot for the sake of setting up a setup for the finale, for the actual movie. But that's it. That's it. Those are the last thoughts I'm going to have on Earthspark as a show. I hate seeing that the quality decreased as the series went on, and the finale just left me disappointed. There's little parts of it I can enjoy, and then the rest of it just feels like, I don't know, it's not the satisfying bundle that I was really hoping to finish on. But that's it for me. I've talked way too long about this set of movies. Let me know in the comments section what you thought, if you were still giving this a shot, or if you were just living vicariously through my review of it. Either way, works for me. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.
Hello everyone, I am Astral Agent Magnetar, a tokusatsu VTuber, and I am streaming 4 times a week over on Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoons, and a special late night one on late Friday/early Saturday. So come watch, come hang out, and let's make an impact together.